Hey, good morning.
Good
Hi.
morning.
Hey, coming to you live from the Resident Inn, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Chattaboogie.
Is it
Yeah, I
freezing
like it.
there too?
What's that?
Is it freezing there as well?
It's not freezing, but it's definitely a little cooler today. It's in the 50s. But another front just came through, so it's supposed to be a little, maybe mid 50s today, but that's fine. It was 70 when we got here on Tuesday, so not complaining. Plus, I mean, when you're in the aquarium, it's not like you really know.
True.
Right. All right.
Can you all, is my mood music a little, is it okay? Can you hear it or? No? Okay.
I can't hear it. I think
Got
we're.
the
I can't. I can't hear it.
We're rocking the lobby vibe down here, so there's some mood music going on. All right, will Sylvia have video today? What's the over under on that? Just kidding, Sylvia. Just love that you're here, honestly.
Haven't seen
For those who don't know, we joke that we're going to take up start a GoFundMe for Sylvia for a camera for a PC, for a laptop. Alrighty, so this morning we're for Pricing Pros. Welcome. So glad that you all have joined us today. We're going to go with, we're going to look at 443 Ken Hawk Drive today, and we are very fortunate to have the, that's going to be a coming soon. We're lucky that we have the soon-to-be listing agent, Teddy Pence, on with us today to provide some insight. He helped these buyers or these sellers purchase the home about 2 years ago. Sylvia, you've got a camera and a microphone. Had to for Tarmy, but my hair's dirty. Well, you didn't have to share that. You could. So, all right, 443 Ken Hawk. Again, Teddy helped these folks purchase this property 2 years ago. They've had a life change and need to sell it now, and so we're lucky to have him here today. This is a reminder for Pricing Pros. I'm not a pricing pro. We're here just for a workout session today. Everybody is welcome and encouraged to participate with questions, suggestions. However, again, we're just gonna get some practice in so we all get better on this. All righty. All right,
Awesome.
I'm going to attempt to share my screen, but Marriott.
I'm happy to share screen over here, Rebecca, if that's preferable, so you don't have to risk that.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. I spent about 30 minutes on the phone with Marriott tech support today, but we were unable to get me on high speed. So that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I love that. For sure.
But they tried really hard. So
yeah, I get it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my whole, let's see, my whole desktop here, because I want you to see all the windows, all the things in this window. Primarily, do you see my my windows here? You see RealTracks, is that correct? Thumbs up. Awesome,
yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I'll take you through a little bit of my practice in putting together comps for this, and I'd love anyone in all feedback and sharing about this. I'll tell you, when I'm preparing this, I keep an Evernote. And can you all see my Evernote? Cool. So you'll see in here, this is my client, and I've saved in here when I start working on a project, I open either a seller note or a buyer note. I just have them in a notebook, and then I put in here some things. He's looking at a condo. In this case, he's buying and selling, so I'll put it in one, but I'm just showing you a little bit of how my hot dog's made. And I will show the prior MLS of when we purchased it, so I will go ahead and grab that, and then any things that we needed to do particular on the property. Let's see what else this other link was here for. Okay, so these are the photos from when it was purchased. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab this just to put them all in one tab. And I work in one window here. And so here is where I have the following things. And so I'll use this to sort of refresh myself of getting to know the property, which is what we want to help you all do here today. So here is the previous MLS, and they paid $387. And okay, so this is the address. It's a 4-bed, 3-bath, 2371 square feet. It's in this very unique location, and we'll come back to that. It was on the market 6 days. If I recall, we did not win the house the first time, and then it came back around for us, and we were more comfortable with the inspection findings. I just kind of refreshed myself on what were the notes of this. I mean, obviously, most time it's been longer. Like you'll notice it says it closed 4/26/19. What's something about this closing date that we should be mindful of? Does anybody have a answer to this? Recommend that this issue, this closing date, why this is important?
Capital gains tax for them.
Yes, Maria, you win the prize. Capital
Ding, ding, ding,
gains
ding.
tax. It's often our sellers are not paying attention to that. And so I've had 2 scenarios this year where I had sellers that almost sold prior to hitting their 2-year mark. And one, we even adjusted closing to make it to the day. But yes, being mindful of hitting the 2-year mark to potentially, it's very likely, but I'm always cautious to give any definitive tax advice, but potentially avoid capital gains because it has served as their primary residence.
And Ted, I just add to that, that's because you need to have lived in it as your primary residence for at least 2 of the past 5 years. For anyone who didn't know.
Yep. So pro tip, you could actually have rented it after 2 years of occupying it for the next 3 years to the date and still claim the exemption. Does anybody have questions on that? I'm happy to answer that as part of Pricing Pros today. Don't be shy. All right, cool. You can rent for 3 years after you move out and still claim the exemption because you have to live in it 2 of the last 5 years. After that 5th year to the day, you're going to be paying capital gains. And my bookkeeper tells me that is something that's part of what likely will pay for the $17 trillion infrastructure plan. All right, it's 2, but it's still got a T in front of it. So that is part of the way that they may be looking at paying for that. All right, so I'm refreshing myself and sharing with you all, learning about this listing. I'll show you the photos here. It's a 4-bed, 3-bath, 2371 square feet. 509 is in the basement. It is a walkout basement, and my seller has done some pretty extensive improvements down there. It now would qualify as I don't even know that I'd call it a full bedroom, or excuse me, there is a full bath. We're not listing it as bedrooms because there's no egress windows, so it by appraisal standards is not a bedroom or 2 bedrooms, and it has a fireplace down there, but it does serve as a rental for him now. So I would put something like that in the special stipulations just for future showings. And you can see it listed at $374. We got it for the lovely price of $387. Yes, we were overpaying in 19. Proud to say we were doing all that then. This is a rough sketch just for an idea. Well, let's see what this previous agent included. Hey, this is nice. They adapted the appraisal drawing to give a little bit of detail here. It's better than nothing is what I would say. And they've even made some modifications to this plan since, but this gives you some sense of the floor plan. This is the basement. Oddly, there's a 2-car side entry garage, which you'll see in the photos. And then there's this odd 1-car garage, which is more of a hobby room or for the lawnmower. All right. Any questions thus far? Yes, Rebecca.
For to qualify as a bedroom, are there any other requirements other than an egress window?
By my understanding, a bedroom needs to have a closet and an egress window. But I see things often, especially in the condo realm, where the bedroom doesn't technically have a window, but it has a closet. And I'll hear it and see it sometimes called a 2-bedroom. So in unconventional spaces, or just in times we're in, be mindful when you're counting bedroom and bathroom. Somebody might be calling something a bedroom that is truly an office and doesn't have a closet. By appraisal standards, that's my understanding. Does anyone know it to be different? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna click through some photos here. I notice it's brick exterior. Looks like it's got a fireplace, it's got a 2-car side entry. Again, I know this property, so this window goes to the garage. It is not part of that walkout basement. Give you a quick photo tour here.
Just a
There's a
note,
lot
Sylvia just added in the chat, egress window has to be something like 20 by 24 and closer than 44 inches to the floor, or something like that.
Thank you, Sylvia. Yes, pro status right there. I think the theory is a husky fireman must be able to get through it, is what it was told to me one time. This is the master suite. They've enlarged this a little bit. They actually took this wall here on the left. You'll see kind of bumps in a little bit. They took some of this oversized living room-esque dining. There is already a dining on the other side of the property to make that master a little bit bigger. They've done some improvements in the master bath. This is the most interesting cabinet setup I've seen. Basically a rework of dressers. Shows great. Cheap alternative to kitchen cabinets. Functionally a disaster.
Are those auto close, soft close?
Yep, just like your 1970s childhood dresser, soft closes, you betcha. With your hip in it. But shows great, right? It's a stunner. The sellers showed immaculate. It was shabby chic to the nth degree, and they fell in love with it, and it turned out to be quite a bit of work. Because it was kitschy, right? That's my word for bring your dresser in and make it a kitchen cabinet and throw some side of the road butcher block on it. But it was kitschy, but it was cute, and it showed really, really well. The craft room, which is also a bedroom, with some crafty paint here on the trim. This is the basement, and again, couldn't be staged better. This is a perfect example of a home staging that just sold the house, right? Like they made this coffee bar here, and the space was so warm and inviting. This is an elevated, like, notice how the photo doesn't show you the step up, because in the basement, you have to elevate the bathroom to send the plumbing upstairs for to be pumped, right? Or for gravity to work properly. So, but again, just this little touch of, some natural wood elements there. And this is the basement, and basement bedroom-ish area. Back patio, beautiful, beautiful yard. This is a really cute spot. There are chickens there. We did negotiate for some of those in the prior closing. Beautiful views out, fire pit. I'm having him do some new mulching in the yard. You can get free mulch in wood chip form from any of the tree trimmers in town. Just start calling tree trimmers. They'll be happy to dump you truckloads of wood chips for free at your property if you're willing to make the calls and follow up and do the hustle. Because he needs a lot of it, and the price is great. All right. The other thing that I'll do when I'm, of course, you can see the showcase listings. Those photos are the same that we went to, is I will, as Rebecca trained me, use this handy feature here to go find the listing. And I will often go ahead and grab the CRS data as well when I'm preparing comps, just so I can look here and give myself some perspective. And so I'm just kind of giving a sense of what's happening here. So what's behind here? Why does it have such a beautiful view? It sits up on a little hill here. When we bought, we looked into the space. This is just common space to this neighborhood back here that's protected. Did a lot of research on some of these other properties at the top of the hill. It's got it even feels like a more oversized yard because there is sort of this unused alley slash potential future street here that at this point, I don't think there's a chance that that would ever get used, but it's right off Nolensville Pike. It's kind of in an interesting location here between Old Hickory Boulevard and Nolensville Pike. This is a really Forest Acres Estates here, a really unique street amongst other homes, right? This is sort of the East Brentwoodish area, this Edmondson Pike. You'll see some, a lot of micro subdivisions in here, and you can just see that geographically. If you've never even sold over here, you're just getting a sense of what's going on around here by looking at this CRS map. And that's kind of how, if I was to go to a listing in Madison tomorrow that I didn't have any experience with, these are the ways that I orient myself. So that's kind of how I do that, right? And I might use these features over here to look at aerials, see where the house sits on the lot, what's behind it. There's lots of things in here that you can do to give yourself some perspective. You could even look at historic flood maps. You could look at aerial photos from different years. You can figure out who has the pool in the neighborhood, to who you have to make friends with, all the things, okay? All right, so we can look at history here. You can see again, as I mentioned, it went up for $374,900. We ended up contracting it at $387,000. Sold a couple years prior to that for $246,000. They had done some renovations to that.
And I love this page, this landing spot when you use the search box now, because you do get a little bit of CRS and a quick text and a quick link to it. And also when you scroll down, you can see that on the left side with the MLS numbers, that's a quick way to access the last or the previous MLS listings to grab some more information. So
pretty handy. So another space I could look at, photos from that time that it listed. Right, different seasons. Maybe there's flowers blooming and I wanted to show that photo. Right, technically you should get agent permission, but it's been that long. Sort of quick text or email. And you might be able to see, well, what work was really done inside? Oh, wow, okay, they gave it a paint job. Hey, look at that fabulous wood grain kitchen. Bathroom was redone, but not like, definitely cosmetic. Right, it was definitely more of a cosmetic upgrade, but you can see then it sold very quickly too, in 2 days. It's a pretty cool little special street. All right, yeah, so thank you, Rebecca. I historically was not using this. You can obviously look at mortgage history and look at FEMA flood maps. Those are things I often recommend at this stage. So then we're gonna go to Browse Map. Correct, Rebecca, the way you?
yes.
All right. Come on, there we go. Okay, and we are going to refine our search. And this is still sort of new for me. This is like the more current way to do comps. And through this process of putting it in the search bar and then coming up this way versus going search and then residential search. They both work, but I'll go through this practice for myself as well. When I'm doing comps, I'm often looking at geographic boundaries that would make differentiations between properties. And having been here, I have a little greater understanding, but had I not, I would still look at things like, we want to pick, of course, like-kind property. So in this case, I'm only going to choose residential property. And then I'm only going to choose site-built, because if there were zero lot lines or HPRs nearby, or condos, those to me are not of like kind. When I search property types, I'm of course wanting to get closed, and I will choose 6 months for right now. And I'm also interested in under contract not showing. Okay, now starting out, I don't look at expireds and withdrawn. That's just my practice. But there are people that do, and it is good practice to then come back and look at, okay, what things weren't selling? It may give you some tips as to how long things are sitting on the market or why they're not selling. Make sense? All right. Often I have forgotten by this point, how many bed and bath is this and what square footage is it? It's a 4.3 and it's 2371. So I'm going to come back here and I'm typically going to use a map search. I don't use zip codes or subdivisions or things like that. So it's a 4.3. So I might compare homes that maybe are a 3-bedroom, but because it has that basement with extra bedrooms, I'm going to start with putting in a 4, and I'm going to go ahead and put a 2 because that 3rd bathroom is in the basement. It's 2,400 square feet. So I'm going to put my bottom end at 1,900. I'm going to go 1,800. No, I'm not. I'm going to go 1,900, and I'm going to go to 3,000. 2,900 would really be my more preferred top end. I'm not going to restrict acres or year built. I probably do a max. I will start with a year built. I don't want anything new construction, but I know there isn't a lot of new construction in its close proximity. So I'm going to go ahead and put, what shall we put?
How about 1990?
1990. All right. And a garage. It does have a
1990, I would put 202 or 205.
Okay. Let's see what we get. We'll do it both ways. How about that? I'm going to go ahead and draw my search now. I don't typically use the circle or rectangle. I could almost in this one, but often knowing the area will help you. Always it will, of course, but knowing that sometimes property values may differ significantly based on what side of the street, what side of the hill, what side of the tracks, what side of the gas station. Those type of things influence property value. You know, that's not my determination. It just tends to be of where we're comparing property values. Just like it would be if you took a search outside of the Governor's Club on the other side of the street, right? It's going to comp differently, even with the same specifications that would work in our search. So in this case, I know I've got Edmondson, Old Hickory, Nolansville, and Holt Road. These are somewhat boundaries, if you will. So I'm going to start by using those, some sense of that. I'm going to go over Edmondson Pike because, Nolansville Pike, because I don't necessarily think there's radical difference that I am aware of. So for now, I'm going to use this box.
Hey, Ted,
Yes,
is that a county line down there?
that is a county line, and that is something to be very mindful to, is these dash lines are county lines. And that would be, while I think there's instances where that may not make a difference, most of the time it will, due to taxes and schools and all the things. Especially in this one, I can tell you there are subdivisions that have half of the neighborhood in Williamson and half in Davidson, and I've seen prices vary $100,000 to be on the Williamson side. And the Williamson side, although 100,000 more, their taxes are less. And in that case, those people also found that they preferred the school ratings. But all that, of course, is for you to suggest to your buyers to look into. All right, so this is where I've gotten thus far, including auctions. I haven't found that to be really a thing much yet. So I run my search here. Again, active pending solds, coming soons, 1,900 to 3,000. We have 3 listings, friends. This is not a lot of data, but it gets us started. And we've got a pretty big range here. So I got a 509 over here. Already I know I don't seem to have enough data. So I'm going to go back to that search automatically before I go much further. And let's go with Maria's suggestion there. Did you say 05?
Yes, I did.
Great. Let's see what we get here with 05. Do I hear 05? 20 listings, everybody. Nice work. Very nice work. Significant difference there. Now that those not those may not be a comp in the sense of their age, right? Because our subject property was built when? I don't remember.
1958.
58.
58. So certainly a lot newer, but definitely some more data. And so one of the things that I may do as well is when I'm looking at my lists, I first sometimes will go, okay, what's closest to it? Because I believe this is how the appraisers look. They'll go, okay, well, what's on market? I've got a 410 here on market, obviously newer, very subdivision style home in similar specs, right? And it has been on the market, let's see here. Takes us to our list of listings here. It's been on the market 2 days. Is anybody not reviewing highest and best anymore? It's just unbelievable. And they've received multiple offers. So very different style home, but certainly would accommodate the bed and bath count. And we have a beautiful fenced in yard. So that may tell us, looks like it's been renovated inside because that's certainly not 1993 decorating in that area. Got a knockdown textured ceiling. We got black windows. The old octagon tray ceiling, big fan from the 80s. Laminate countertops, don't hate on them. They're really durable. Great looking house, right?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, I think that shows very, very well. Not surprised, multiple offers. So that tells me, okay, well, 410, that helps me. And then I sort of start clicking through, right? And looking at what else I'm looking at. Just in this one was at 399. It's coming soon. It looks like no other photos there. Often what I'll do is I will go to my list then. If I feel like I've got potentially enough, at least raw data to use, and there's some choices here of using this data, or if these newer homes are potentially too new, going back a year. My experience is that an appraiser would rather use 6 months data and maybe probably expand the year built than the age and go back a year. They just don't love, and historically we don't love, or myself don't love, data that is prior to longer than 6 months because it's just a different market. And in all truth, it seems to me like even 4 months, like what the market was in December or November, is maybe a little different than it is now. So we've got a pending in here. Of course, we don't know what those are, but I start looking at, I'm immediately going to come down to closed, and let's start looking at maybe kicking out the higher side of things like the 509s. I'm trying to narrow in where am I priced in the 4s or the 5s, and where in that, right? Like that's a big range.
And this one has a 1.42 of an acre.
Right.
So it's big.
It is. And again, I'm like, oh, well, how big am I? 0.96. So that's good. And I'll say my listing or this lot feels really big too. I think y'all are just smart and join this to see the coming soon, which I think is a wise choice, by the way.
Love connection. That's what this is all about, man.
Should rename this Love.
And along those lines of Maria's comment, Sylvia put in the chat, in an area like this where the property has an acre and the newer ones have smaller lots, what weight would you give the land?
And that's a great point. I'd love to hear any thoughts or feedback on that. All right, I had the same feedback from my seller. Yeah, I don't know. I think it depends. Like with many things, for some people, year built is a thing, right? They want a newer home. And what does that mean, right? When we're doing our buyer consultation, what does newer mean to you? And what extent of improvement or renovation are you willing or open to making? And what is your yard or view? How important is that to you? Big deck, double stairs, not sure why. Interesting location. Maybe there was the hot tub that didn't remain that was there. Big deck, big private yard. 509. Sold 19 days. Nice area. Close to retail. All the things.
Well, I was noticing, Ted, when you were doing this in CRS and looking at the view from there, how this is, to me, the word oasis came to mind in terms of you've got all these subdivisions with 0 lot lines or, something only slightly larger than that. This is very unique. And I think that's a strong marketing point as far as how much value goes with that. I don't know,
And privacy
but I think
too.
it's really, yeah.
And this is interesting. Of course, Crystal here with Village. I always scroll down and see who and what that looked like, right? So listed at 529, sold for 509. That
Yeah,
closed it on-
I brought up the land question because I sold a 3-acre house on Holt Road, and there were all those newer subdivisions, and it was, Rebecca, I think you articulated it really well. I don't know that it has a black and white appraisal difference, but it certainly is more of an oasis unicorn. And so it could have value if it's a nice quality house.
Agreed. Where is that a challenge to comp that with that acreage amongst all those new homes?
Well, I think noting where Maria noted that one that was 1.5 acres, you go, oh, okay. Maybe that's a better comp in a way, because of the land.
Yeah, I would agree. As opposed to this one, that was listed at 500, sold for 546. There we go. The 2021 effect, we'll call it. I don't think it's COVID effect. I think it's the 21 effect. So this one, yeah, sold for, what was that? 50,000, almost over list price. I say I hope we have that problem, but I really don't want to deal with 20 some offers. But nonetheless, that is interesting. Now, of course, a lot of footage, right? At $196 a foot, 2,700 square feet, certainly more footage than us.
I'd like to put out there that I hope you do get 20 offers.
You're right. You're right. I just can't wait to deal with that fun. I want to make that spreadsheet. All right. Here's a 495. Very, very different styled home, right? So like when I'm comping, I'm just looking at style at this point because I can look at the bed, bath, and footage and acreage, and I think those are all very material. And then I'm just looking at, okay, where do we really compare? And what I might do is go back to my list here, and I'll look at some year builds and maybe try to find one of those older ones, something closer to me. Right, here's a Monte Carlo at 329, built in 79, a 4.3, 2,000 square feet. So I'll look at this to see, okay, well, am I nicer than this? I mean, I certainly hope so, because this one is way on the bottom side. And then this one tends to just provide total confusion as I go, well, my goodness, this sold so low. Why so?
Well, I think your bones are better. You've got hardwood floors. It's just more of a substantial, even if they did the shabby chic, that can easily be changed out. But the bones of this are inferior to your house.
What about the telescope? What kind of value do you put on the telescope?
I love that staging. We're buying a telescope for staging. That's it.
Sylvia, I'm interested. What gave you that perception about our bones? As far as I'm interested, because I think you're right, but I'm curious of why you feel that, or what about what you saw made you feel that?
Well, I can't remember exactly, but it was brick. It was, it had, even from the outside, the brick had more detail than a later 60s brick house. I think it had hardwood floors.
It does, yeah.
Just so with what you're starting with, kind of more timeless, all this cheaper laminate flooring can look really great in a photograph, but
Yeah.
once you get, I mean, look at that. It's a handsome house.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So I think it's just I just wouldn't even go there with a comp.
Yeah.
I would go with a newer house. Yeah. That other house, it's like they were trying to pack a lot in for the money. So, hey, we'll give you a vaulted ceiling and we'll do this, this, and this. Probably was originally carpeted. And so it feels that way. You
Yep.
kind of can't undo that. Anything in your house, yeah, you can put in real kitchen cabinets. Done, you know.
Right. So I also may kick out a couple of these, you know, these outliers that I feel like, you know, we don't compare as much to, like this, you know, that 2001 that sold for 546. So just to kind of simplify my life, often what I will do is, you know, uncheck those, get rid of those, and get down to my search results here. Sorry about that. Let's see here. Let's look at my CMA, shall we, to look at the stats here. And what I do notice, it doesn't have my subject property in there, which I don't remember what I do or not do to put that in there. Rebecca, you recall sometimes that's in the CMA there?
Yes, you can go, I believe it's to, do you go to settings? There we go.
Right there. I got to put all that in manually. I'm not going to do that for now, just in the interest of time, but thank you for sharing that for us. So
Yeah,
when
that's
you
where you can, and then it'll appear on the top. At the top of each section, you'll be able to see. So when you're printing them, it's great.
yes, to present to the seller. $1951, is that correct?
1958.
Yeah, thank you.
4-bed, 3-bath, 2371.
There you go. Does anybody want to put a number on it yet? I'm real cautious to use any of the averages, you know, as far as when we look at the closed, like, you know, you could say 161 a foot, but it's like, you can see this Highland Way one certainly skews things at $239 a foot, built in 77 on an acre 42. I really love that number.
But
That
this
would
is
be the closest one I would go for, you know, from 509 and up, but not that much. Another 10 or 15,000.
What were you sharing, Maria? About 5 or 10?
Yeah, 509, I would go probably 510 or 515.
You
Add
would.
it to that.
Okay.
$10,000 more or $15,000 more.
All right. I've got a 509 to 515. Anybody else? Want me to click on any data here? You want to see any photos? Want more information?
I like that number. That's a great number. But my question is, in terms of price breaks that we always talk about, is 509, 510, are we going to miss the people whose budget is up to 500 with that? Would that be a concern?
Could be.
The other thing I like, one thing I really like about this exercise and looking at more than less is we have to be able to field the questions from sellers of, well, hey, you know, Mr. Jones down the street, they sold for 509 and mine's nicer than that. So this is educating ourselves and arming us with information to be able to address questions and not just come up with a, you know, with a really good price range estimate, but also to be able to address questions.
So I'm having a problem with this entire premise of using houses built in the 90s or 2000s and going back 6 months rather than starting with similarly aged houses and going back further just to get a baseline. And I think I would probably start there and then think
Alright.
about what kind of price increases have happened over the last year and what the current market is. And then if that doesn't work, I'd go back to something modern. But somehow I'm having trouble thinking that these are your comps.
I don't disagree that the age definitely changes the whole style of the home, and I think it's very likely a different buyer. So I do have caution about using those as comps. And so what it begs to me is two variables. We either go wider with the geography, which certainly can. I don't necessarily think being north of Edmondson Pike, I mean, obviously we get into over in here into Creve Hall, which I think carries a different vibe or a different valuation. Certainly could go further out. I don't know if more comps are available there and or go further back. Do you want me to just choose further back first and then see what we come up with and then restricting the age? Because I do think it's a value point. So
Yeah, restrict the age and go back a year and just see what you get.
okay, what age do you suggest?
Are you in at 58? Is that the year built?
It is.
I don't know. I might do like 45 to 75.
And I love this point while Ted does this. I love it because it just brings into relief that doing comps, doing pricing is an iterative process. It's not a one and done. It's, let's try this and come at it from a bunch of different angles. It's why it's a great idea to ask other people to take a look at it or just spend some time. Maybe sometimes you need to blow up the whole thing and start over again just to make sure you're not stuck in a rut with blinders on. So I love that point, Anne.
I totally agree with that. Ted, are you searching with garage spaces?
I was.
Would it be helpful to just clear that and even the bedrooms and baths and just see, just kind of, maybe not bedrooms and baths, but maybe go to 3 beds and see what you get? I know 4 is different, but just to see what's in that pool in that age range.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Certainly gives us more data here to look at. Definitely.
That's awesome. 4 houses.
But at least they're of closer age, right? So, I mean, obviously they don't have the garage, and while that may not be as much of a definitive choice here, like I'm not going to put a garage in searching Sylvan Park or East Nashville or Creve Hall. Like some of them have it, some don't. Most of them have had garage conversions. So I think it's a key point in consideration, right? This one's really close to us. This is 350. And again, often I will, just click on them to see how we look or compare. So that butcher box counter again.
And then see too, if it was what somebody paid for it versus, like how many, yeah, I just want to see that piece.
And so it went over list, but it was last summer. So
Right.
that's my challenge, is that this data is very helpful. I think these are more comparable in their properties. I think I'm still challenged with the number, because I think that house would sell for probably 425 today, this 350 house a year
Yeah,
later.
absolutely. Because if it's gone up 10% and 10 over, or I think you're right on the money with that number.
Yeah.
And then so if it would sell for 450, what is that a square foot? 1980. I mean, it's a smaller house, but what would that sell for per square foot, and what does that do to yours?
Sure. So 880 of theirs is in the basement. we know an appraiser will typically value basement footage differently. But if I was to take that 425 divided by 1980, that puts it at 214 a foot.
And what's your square footage? 23 something?
Yep.
2371.
Oh, okay. So that puts you at like 500.
I'm really starting to like that 500 mark.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I wouldn't go any less.
I'm not ready to go Rogan and go higher than 500 right now, but I'm really liking that mark.
And you
I'm
know,
I'm afraid of that number.
you're afraid of the 500?
I am.
Well, that house is smaller as well, right? So it's going to have a higher price per square foot. But even if you were, I don't know, I guess I'm thinking like even in this market with everybody overbidding, I still think there's a lot of benefit to being lower and allowing people to bid up than to be higher and lose part of your pool or have buyers be offended because they don't see the value and it's obvious and et cetera.
Is it time to look at competition, if there is any, and see where your house would position within the competition? So let's say if there are houses that are available that haven't sold in 2 weeks, in this market, you could almost say they're overpriced.
Yes.
And it just sort of, again, like another angle to look. I don't know if it's premature to do that yet, but just sort of to test the 500 with the against actives and under contracts.
I love the test kitchen approach, Sylvia. That's what I was thinking of,
Yeah.
America's Test Kitchen. And I was also thinking, what if, even though we know limiting comps to even just to 6 months because what's happened, what if we go to a year, keeping in mind that something that sold 8 months ago, we're
Right.
going to need to add an escalation, almost like an appraiser would, but we're adding up just for the market change.
So you mean to start somewhere at 487 or 485? And
That's what I'm,
that's the base point. But you know you're going to get over 500 for sure.
I hope you're right.
so if you look at those comps, the one you just did prior, Ted, the smaller one, and you say, you know, I think it's 100 more than that. If you take that price and you think that prices have increased 10% and then people are bidding up 10 to 20%, I think that gives you a range. If you can duplicate that when you look at other houses in that age range.
Right. And so are you suggesting I change this comp criteria here, or do you feel like from what we've seen?
What was our, oh, you're at 1990.
That's
It's,
yeah,
it's
that's
not,
the only thing.
it's not crazy. 1990 is not crazy.
I didn't think so. I mean, we're still in a year here. What I notice is that there's only been one home that is sold over 500.
Right. And again, people are going to bid it up. So your client will probably get over 500. I mean, in my estimation, it's better to go under, draw more people, don't offend buyers because the value isn't obvious, and let people bid up if they want to pay that premium to win an offer.
Right, right.
And your client will end up with 500 anyway.
Ted, there was a house about 3 weeks ago that was, I would say just north of there, not Creve Hall, not Whispering Hills, but maybe to the east of that. And it was brick, painted white, you know, all that shebang. And they had 68 showing, and it was priced around 400, I think. They had 68 showings in 2 days and 28 offers, I believe. So location wise, it's not so far from where you are. You know, you always, if you price it at the higher price, are you going to get the appraiser that is a real stickler for, well, these aren't 1958 houses or whatever.
Great point.
You protect your sell. If the appraisals are slam dunk, then the market will do its thing. That sweet spot, what is it?
Well, this is helpful. I mean, I've struggled with this one, and my seller, of course, is looking to me to he has a gut number in his mind, and I do too. And this feedback's very helpful. I think what we're really cautioned by is when we look at this map and we look at this data of just there's not a tremendous amount of sales, and that's not as much maybe the issue, but certainly we're not seeing anything in those numbers, right? So it is kind of a unique property that may, from a data wise or a CMA perspective, kind of puts us in a challenging spot. I don't see a lot of data to support the number that that you all are suggesting, and I like the number and I can see the rationale, but I'm wondering how an appraiser is going to tackle it, or what I show up with, and all of my data, looks like I got one house that's over 200 a foot.
What data are you referring to?
Uh,
that you say you don't like the data, or that you don't see that it's there? To me, I see the data. Like if you go back a year and take age similar houses, and you know that the prices have increased by 10% over the last year, that's not crazy. That is data.
Yeah, and in that, I guess in the spirit of that, if I take all these and I run a CMA on it, even at 10%, do I get there? For some of these aged out, these year-old properties. I mean, 10% on 3,350 is only another 35 grand. That puts, at the 380, 390, not at the 5. Now that one, excuse me, that has lower footage, but
also, didn't your client do some renovations?
He did. He has done some improvements, and I certainly feel comfortable to share those with the appraiser and give them a detailed list of this. It's I mean, these price per foot, I've got a couple in here that certainly help the picture, right? One of these though is, this one's 4 acres, so I think there'll be some consideration to land there. That's obviously $240 a foot, but maybe this Highland Way one, I know we looked at that several times. That's the one, I think the village agent had sold it. So that's all. It's just, I see a lot of these lower figures, and it makes me cautious.
Hey, Ted.
Yeah.
When did your client purchase that? Didn't you say 2019?
He did, the summer of 19.
Okay, so you're 2 years out, right? So it's roughly, 10, let's just say 10% year over year.
Sure.
I did it with 8% the first year and 10%
Yeah.
second year, and got around, what did I get? Sorry, I missed it, 3. So I'm tracking with that, Ann.
If you do 8% the first year and then you do 10% the next year, it puts it at 459.
Right.
Right.
And
Mhm.
then
Wow.
if there's any improvements, and then you could even push that just a tiny bit, nothing crazy, but just a tiny bit, and then let the market do its thing with people overbidding And you're going to get really close to that 500, I think, if not over.
Well, and
That's just
you've
my
also got you've also got the trend right now of people going back to moving out, having more space, just the COVID effects, wanting space and yard. And there's room here for a full office in the basement. You could have a pool in the backyard, bloody blah.
exactly. It's really well.
There is a lot of potential there with so much land. A lot of people are looking for more land.
Well, and just having some privacy too, like you said, it's this unique little pocket among really tight subdivisions. I don't know. I think between the price increases year over year, the fact that it has the acreage and it's this kind of spacious thing in the middle of subdivisions, I think you've got something. I think you can get there.
Yep,
Well,
I agree with you.
that's very, very helpful. That's very, very helpful. And like I said, as you saw from those photos, I mean, it is a beautiful yard. It is a stunning, stunning yard. And
What's the number your client has in mind?
450.
Oh, see, so you're going to exceed expectations.
And that's our bidded up price. Like, so we kind of were tossing between 475 and 450. And I tend to not be one that goes in between too much. And especially in this market, we felt like we'll just put it out and let it bid it up. We initially kind of jostled or jockeyed with 500, but felt like that was ambitious for that area.
If you do 475, you'll get the 500. If you do 450, you might even get the 500. I do 475 because even if it's only worth 450, somebody who is willing to pay 450 isn't going to run away because it's at 475. And somebody who's willing to pay 500 will pay that 25 premium. I think you're in good stead, my 2 cents.
Two other things. I just kind of did a circle around the house to see what has sold regardless of price, age, whatever. There is nothing above 500 in recent history. So this is a little bit more of a unicorn. So there's that conservative viewpoint of, are you the nicest house on the block? And then the other point of view, I think, is the COVID thing. People do want more land. I know it's a completely different time. We weren't in the crazy multiple offer time, but that 3-acre property I had on Holt, it was a big deal to have that oasis. It was a unicorn. If you wanted that, there wasn't that to be had. So even just this acre that feels like more than an acre, but you may have the market bid it up as opposed to pricing it at 5. But the 475 could make sense, even looking at it from the conservative point of view, that there just aren't a lot of those higher sales. It's the nicer house on the block.
Yeah, and I think there are nicer homes on our block. They just don't turn over often. There's a lot of people up there that have been there a while and made really nice improvements to their home. There's even a home site at the top of that hill where there's I think somebody's building a pretty substantial estate. And it's just a very unique street amongst.
Exactly. Yeah. You aren't literally in the bad way the nicest house on the block, but just in terms of recent sales.
Yeah.
I think, Ted, those kinds of neighborhoods where people don't move for 40 years because it's so amazing. That is, people really want that.
That's a huge selling point. I think a lot of where you're going to get a lot of value is the narrative that you craft, that a lot of what you tell people the property is versus what they just see.
So I would go more on the 475 because of that.
Right. Well, and here's one that's interesting. This is listed at 449. What do you notice about this right off the bat?
It's unappealing paint job?
All right, David Payne, come on.
I noticed this Christmas tree in the back.
Oh, yikes.
Yes,
Bad.
that's a no-no.
But they gave it the Inglewood paint job. And I'll use this chance to remind that, you know, select a diversity of photos in in your first 5, because there's some listings where when people click through, you don't want to put your first, oh, hey, oh, we got a pool. So don't put your first 4 photos as 4 different exteriors of the same power line. But here's where she shines, friends. You go inside and, hey, I've got another telescope. Those are hot this year, I think.
Hey, Ted, do not
Yeah.
be dissing Inglewood. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Take it easy.
That's where I live.
I like Inglewood. I didn't mind the paint job. Though for the area, it seemed odd. I'm also intrigued by this furniture floor plan. Let's just diverge here for a minute, friends. What's happening here?
Painful.
Very interesting things going on in this listing.
Ted, if you don't mind, I'm just going to interject because we are at the 1 hour point and I'm happy to stay on, but I know people sometimes, you know, have other things to do. I just want to thank everyone for participating today. And I hope you picked up something from it. I've gotten so much out of this, having you drive and lead it. I've seen it so much in a different perspective. And so thank you, Ted, for taking over and walking us through this exercising today. If anyone has an upcoming or a special snowflake or just a curious one for Pricing Pros and you'd like to lead in the next 2 weeks, drive a little bit. Don't worry, you won't be on your own. We're all here to support, but please let us know and I'll turn it back to Ted for the after party.
This is definitely the after party. And I want to genuinely thank everyone. Your feedback is super, super helpful. Rebecca suggests, she goes, why don't you do Kinhawk for it? I'm like, okay, well, so I appreciate the opportunity and for all of your feedback. But yeah, if this isn't the after party, this house has everything. Wire shelving to barn doors to walls of drapery, telescopes, barnwood, vessel tub. I don't think they've missed anything. Rainhead shower, floating shelves. Huh. Baseboard heat. Curtains. Some of you may feel those are too short. I hear mixed opinions. A lot going on here, friends. But right next to your power lines, out your back door, is this oasis.
Sold.
Pretty sure that these
What a view.
pretty sure these afterthought railings are not code. Just for you that are studying your home inspection, you can crawl right through that. That is not going to pass inspectione. Hey, this is nice. We got a hot tub and an outdoor tiki bar. This is incredible. There is so much going on here. You ever like to swim under the power lines? This is your automobile. As Clark
Can you
Griswold liked to say.
Can you get Box Brownie to remove the chicken run and add an outdoor pool oasis for the
That
pick?
is true. We haven't Box Brownie the pool in a listing yet, but I am going to retract my Inglewood. I apologize for that. You are correct. At first glance, I thought it was a bit of an arts and crafts paint job and it had merit, but I get it. Well, that's $450 and that sold pre-market, it looks like. So I think even though we don't have a pool, I think it certainly begs for the 475.
Yeah, I think a power line is worth 25 grand.
All day, right? All day. Well, I think they've tried everything possible to overcome in that listing. The pool and tiki bar for sure.
And that's a great point about the power lines. It's not always about what you have in a listing, but sometimes, or property, sometimes what you don't have, what's not there.
And we'll close with this important point regarding curtains, Maria. I'm glad you concur. My designer says they should puddle if you don't use them. They should kiss if they're functional. You like it, Maria? It stuck with me. There you go. That's all I have. Does anybody have any other opinions on curtains, pricing strategies, CMAs, or any other real estate related things we should cover before we close today?
Well, I think there's a lot of potential in that house. It would be 450 or 475, your base price. I'm sure you're going to get more than that because of the privacy and the extensive land.
I
Hey
appreciate
everybody, this is Cooper, just saying hello.
birthday boy. Howdy, buddy. I love that mask. We are not painting the brick that was discussed. Told them to put up some hanging baskets out there. This was a nice touch. There's a door handle or a kitchen pole that they just put on the ceiling. And so that still remains. So I told him to put some hanging baskets. He was going to replace the front railings. I just said, give him a fresh coat of paint. Just going to share, look at some other things as far as that the other feedback or ideas. Like I said, it photographed really well. When we ended up getting into it, you can see down here where this seller, they took out a wall, but they never repaired the floor. This is always a nice trick. That shows you where the previous wall was, right? And they never feathered in the new flooring or restained the whole thing. That, of course, has all been fixed. So this wall has come in closer to this window now. You don't even really notice it. The living room still feels quite generous in size, and the master's gotten a little bit bigger, which was needed. There was a lot of bizarre laundry room issues going on too, which they've corrected and made a bigger master closet. But anyhow, well, it's going to be live within 2 weeks. So we're expecting photos late next week and be live the following. So you've heard it here first. And we are going to be at 475, friends. Thanks to
like 475 is good.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. This basement's improved a lot as well. We've done a lot of work down there to just clean it up and make it more functional. We took off, there was some exterior metal stairs that went to a side door back here that really weren't necessary. So we got rid of those. He put 7,000 in the garage, took out a bunch of beams in there that made it almost unfunctional. He hired USS for $7,000. They came in and cut out 2x2 squares and put in proper posts and pillars and an I-beam. And yeah, so they certainly put in some money, but we got rid of this stairwell back here. You can see that funky garage. Lots of wood chips coming. Koi pond.
Are the chickens included?
I don't know. He likes his chickens. He also has bees, but I don't think he keeps them out there. But the yard just feels huge, and you have this beautiful sunset view out the back. It's a really special property. There they go.
They're all like chickens.
They're cute. Yeah, they're cute. Well, thank you all so much. And I really, really appreciate your generosity and time and spirit and expertise. This one to me is just very unique. So in the sense that there wasn't a lot of what I felt like close data, and it's always helpful to hear different perspectives on that. So thank you again. And
Thank you so much for your help.
Thank you. I mean, and to Rebecca, especially for creating this opportunity for Pricing Pros. And like you said, whether you have listings or not, I mean, I learned so much just from listening in on these and sharing. And so,
Well, and even if you don't have a listing, you just want to pick a property, even one that you've had before, but you want to show your process and walk through it and have people, have us all support. It's like we're the spotters. You're doing the bench press and we're here to help out. So just reach out and let us know.
yeah. And don't forget today at 10:30. So in 20 minutes, we've got Mortgage Mastery, and it's pretty intensive. It's going to be the chance to really grill grill and drill about the nuances of mortgages and all the questions you want to ask, but you feel like you're not getting the truth. I told them there's no holds barred on this. So
That'll
Ted,
be recorded, right, Ted?
it will. That will be
Awesome.
recorded.
I got to go to the aquarium, so I'll watch it later.
Enjoy your beautiful day. Hey, I hope to see all your faces in 20 minutes. Take care, y'all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.